hopefully come to them. Pray.
Amen. Mrs. Ford, would you take the roll, please?
Mr. Dean? Here. Mr. Sharp? Here. Mr. Thompson? Here. Mr. Faulkner? Here. Mr. Tanner? Here. Mr. Groby? Here. Mr. Gould?
Here.
Mr. Canulet? Here. Mr. Belisario? Here. Miss O'Brien? Here. Mr. Stefanczyk? Here. Mr. Bender? Here. Mr. Artigue? Here. Mr. Smith? You have a quorum.
Okay, first item is a special item. Public hearing, Resolution Council Series Number C 3488, resolution establishing millage rates and parcel fees for the year 2012. The administration, would you like to give us a presentation on the information, and then we'll move on it?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As you have before you, we have the adjusted millage, which in most cases are slightly less than 2011, so we were able to roll those back.
So there'll be no change,
That is correct.
okay? Need a motion,
So moved.
second by Mr. Belisario, that was Red Thompson. All right, now we're ready to take public comment, if anyone wishes to speak on the issue. Okay, I'll close the floor. Any discussion amongst council members? Okay, well, vote with your lights on the resolution, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Under presentations, a certificate of recognition to Amanda Warren of Lake Harbor Middle School for being chosen as Teacher of the Year. I believe Miss Amanda's here, escorted by Trey Foles. Can y'all come to the mic, please? And I'll...
Escort, am I supposed to like put my arm out?
Yeah, it's like homecoming day. St. Tammany Parish Government Certificate of Recognition, Louisiana's Middle School Teacher of the Year Award. Parish government formally recognizes Amanda Warren. Mrs. Warren, or Miss Warren, teaches at Lake Harbor Middle School and is a lifelong resident of St. Tammany Parish. She comes from a family of educators, both parents being school teachers within St. Tammany's school system. Miss Warren received a bachelor's degree in elementary education from LSU and a master's degree in education technology leadership from Northwestern State University. Superintendent Foles stated St. Tammany's teachers winning regional and state honors such as these helps ensure that we are providing the best leadership and education opportunities for the children of St. Tammany Parish. St. Tammany Parish government and council do hereby recognize and honor Ms. Warren through this certificate of recognition unanimously approved this July 6th of September 2012. My kids went through Lake Harbor, Magnolia Trace, that system. It's the best education that your taxes can pay for or any money can pay for. These people are phenomenal. Amanda, I really want to thank you because you do a great job. All the ladies at Lake Harbor do a great job. Do you like?
Thank you. I'm not much for a public speaker, but thank you. I'm very honored. Teaching is what I love to do, and I am a product of the school system. That's it. I don't really know what else to say. Thank you, Mr. Foles, for being here tonight, and also for my principal, Ms. Potian, who's a great leader and helps me do my job every day. Thank you.
Ms. Potan, come on up.
If I could, I did want to recognize Susan Potan, who is a principal at Lake Harbor, who does a great job, and thank you for being here, Susan. On behalf of the school system, I just wanted to thank everyone. It's just nice to be here and not be sitting around a table and hearing a hurricane update, so that's a good thing. The school system certainly appreciates the relationship that we have with this council and this administration and President Brister, as evidenced by the way we worked together on this last storm and the communications that helps us so much and helps as we go about opening shelters and communicating to our citizens what we need to do as a school system. The beautiful thing about Mandy is she is a graduate of our school system. Her mom is an administrator in our school system as well. So you love to see your own come back and contribute to their school system and contribute to our school system and to the students in our system. So we're proud of her. Each school across this state nominates one teacher for Teacher of the Year. So Mandy is representing all the middle school teachers across the state of Louisiana, and she was chosen the best of the best for that. So we're certainly proud and honored to have her in that role, and we look forward to showcasing her talents as well as all the talents of the St. Tammany Parish Public School teachers this coming year. Again, thank y'all for your support, and thank you for having us here tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Potan, we got you up here.
I just want to say thank y'all for inviting us here, and how proud I am of Mandy. She is a fantastic teacher. I wish you could all come into her classroom. I'm sure she might not want that, but for all of you to come to her classroom and see, she does an awesome job. Great with the kids, and she's a leader at our school. So thanks again for recognizing that she was our school, our district, and our state Teacher of the Year.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Okay, next presentation. Announcement regarding Bras for a Cause, an upcoming event supporting women's health. Mr. Groby and I believe Ms. Tina Richards is here to give us a presentation and speak about this.
Thank you for allowing me to come and talk, and I am not a public speaker by any means. It's Women's Council of Realtors, and this is our second year to have Bras for a Cause. The proceeds donated stay in St. Tammany Parish. They are donated to Slidell Memorial Foundation and St. Tammany Foundation to be used for all types of whatever the foundations decide to use for breast cancer patients. Last year, we donated $10,000 between the two foundations. We had 25 bra entries, all presented by male models. So the male models, whoever, ladies, men, can decorate bras, and they prance around, and we auction off the bras. So it was very successful. It was at Sal and Judy's last year. It was overwhelming, and we even had buses that turned around and left because there was no place to sit or to get in the building. So this year we are having it at the Harbor Center. It is October the 9th from 6 to 9. Tickets are on sale in advance. Mr. Jacob has a poster that maybe he'll hang somewhere in here. We're still looking for sponsorships, bra entries, silent auction items, and did I say we had 25 bras? Doors open at 6 o'clock. Tickets are on sale, $50 in advance, and $50 in advance, $60 at the door.
I want to thank you for the opportunity to come up here tonight and really expound on this cause. I may be the first councilman to actually model a bra. With a nod to the League of Women Voters, Sandra's missed it tonight. She's going to be sorry. But this is a work in progress. I go see the plastic surgeon next week to get on work. But I want to challenge my co-council members for the same thing. 12 of us should not have the experience that one of us does, obviously. At least I hope not. But I'd like y'all to come on out, wear one for a good cause also. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great, Jake.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I always look forward to these meetings, but tonight I was promised that two of you would be wearing those bras. and I'm sorely
We
disappointed.
will be wearing them next month.
Okay,
He was
that's a
supposed
promise.
to have one tonight too, guys. He chickened out.
Okay, next presentation is by Ralph O'Neill of St. Tammany Salt Council regarding a law enforcement training course on elderly abuse. Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, council members. I appreciate the opportunity to come in here and speak to you about this tonight. But before I do, just briefly, you mentioned in the prayer at the start our parish's response to Isaac. And I must tell you, as one who has worked with our senior evacuation notification system since its inception, one of the things that is the most gratifying to me is to see how well our parish responds to the needs of our seniors, especially with the special needs shelter. That is really an unusual undertaking for a parish, and I don't know how many people were in the shelter this time. I haven't had a chance to find out exactly. But I know we got calls, as we do in all those cases, in advance from people who wanted to know where they could go because they had special medical needs and they didn't know what they could do. And we could refer them to John Tobin's office and tell them, you can get help through the special needs shelter. It's a wonderful program. And I commend all of the employees, the staff, the council, and the administration for what appeared to be an outstanding response to this hurricane and the difficulties that it brought. I was called out of town, was able to monitor it from California on the internet, and I was so impressed with what I saw. So from one who's deeply committed to the safety and security of our senior citizens, thank you for everything that you all did in this event, in this terrible emergency. Now, to my issue. The SALT Council works on safety and security for seniors. We do a variety of different things. We do senior security seminars. We have residential security kits. We work with Senior Medicare Patrol on fraud and abuse within the Medicare Medicaid systems. We teach elder abuse prevention, and we do a lot of elder abuse training for professionals. Why is that particularly important? Well, elder abuse takes a number of different forms: financial, physical, sexual, emotional, neglect, and self-neglect are just some of the areas that occur within the elder abuse arena. And it is a horrible problem in this country. Financial exploitation of seniors affects approximately 65% of everyone over age 65 in this country, in one way or another. 11% of the seniors over 65 will be a victim each year of some form of financial exploitation. So we know that this is a problem. The worst part of this particular problem is that almost 9 out of 10 cases, the suspect is a family member or a closely trusted individual. Now, this segment of our population is the fastest growing segment in our community. 10,000 people a day turn 65 in this country. The seniors are exploding as our population group. So they become a target-rich environment. The average net worth is highest in people over 55 years of age. So for con men, they're the perfect target, and that's where they go. Many of our seniors find themselves in situations where they have been abused in one form or another, and they are reluctant to report it because they're afraid they'll lose their independence. They're afraid someone will stick them in a nursing home somewhere and that they won't be cared for. It's interesting to note that the most important thing to virtually all of these victims of elder abuse is their independence. And yet, frequently, they're being denied their independence. But they have no place else to go but to the person who's creating this grief for them. We've learned in looking at this problem that Louisiana has some of the very best elder abuse laws in this country. They are absolutely phenomenal laws. And the problem is, we don't teach our police officers about elder abuse. They don't get it in their basic training. They don't get it in their advanced training. We've had classes where we talk to law enforcement officers, And we asked them if they knew what Elderly Protective Services was, and the whole group of 40 officers said no. And yet there's one of the greatest agencies that can support law enforcement in preventing and investigating and stopping elder abuse. When you walk up to virtually any law enforcement officer, if you ask him, does he know about the enhanced penalties for elder abuse, he'll almost always tell you no, because nobody's ever told him about them. So we need to solve that. And SALT Council identified a few years ago that there is a program that's specific that will work to do this. The program comes out of the Department of Justice through the Office of Violence Against Women and the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. It's now administered through the National Clearinghouse on Abuse in Later Life. This program is really something special. I've sat through the training 3 times. We actually brought it to St. Tammany Parish twice as a pilot program down here. We filled the classroom at the Sheriff's Academy each time. In fact, we had to turn people away. We took it over to Jefferson Parish for a pilot program, and they had the same experience with it. So here's this wonderful program that creates the opportunity for officers to get 8 hours of training and go out and make a difference, and we don't have a way to fund it to give it to them. Well, now, through the National Clearinghouse, through INCAL, they have agreed for the first time to let a non-grant agency, the SALT Council, put on this training program. But we have to fund it to the tune of about $20,000. Now, what will that $20,000 do? We will train 8 teams of 5 instructors from all over the state. They, in turn, will go out and be able to train, we estimate, between 500 and 800 officers per year until we get in front of the curve instead of behind it on elder abuse. SALT Council's annual budget's $26,000. $20,000 to raise the training budget for this is a hurdle. But we're working on it, and we're getting some great response. We're getting a response from citizens who are writing me checks for $5. Seniors will come up to me and say, here's a $5 bill, it's all I can afford. But you know, if I get a few $5 bills, that pays the per diem for one of the instructors for the day. If I get a company that comes to me and says, I don't have much, but I can give you $50, that gets me halfway to the per diem for a day. If I can get an employee organization to say, we'll all donate $1 and there are 100 of us, that makes a huge difference in what we're able to do to fund this. We have a number of organizations and companies that are backing us up on this. We have banks that have already committed funding to it, and they're doing it outside their budget cycle. Now, I come here tonight because I need money, and I understand, and I fully appreciate the effort that this administration and this council goes through to operate an effective government at the lowest possible costs. For years, I drew up the budget for the Phoenix Police Department. That was my job as a sergeant in the administration. So I know what it's like. I know how hard it is to find those dollars. But a little bit can go a long way. And if the parish can't help us this year, I would ask you to remember and consider us for next year, because this is going to be a continuing program. This is going to take us a couple of years to do. And ultimately, we're going to have to be paying for the instructors to go out and make these presentations in some of the more rural areas. Initially, they're going to be kept busy right in their own backyards. But after 8 to 12 months, we're going to have to be funding their travel expenses. So we need your help now, and we need it then as well. If you can't find a way to come up with some cash to help us with this, we fully understand that. We are in the middle of the budget cycle. We're behind the budget cycle. And this is short notice. I found out about this July 8th. I was driving across I-10 coming back from Alabama, and it was in a rainstorm, and suddenly, when I got a call on my cell phone from the national director of INCAL, and she said, yeah, we're going to do this for you. The rain went away, the sun came out, and it felt like a wonderful experience because we've been trying to do this for 5 years. I want to keep that sun shining. So help us find the sources for the funding. You know people in the community. You know businesses who can help. Point them to us. We're a 501c3 charity that's been around for 10 years in St. Tammany Parish. People know us. We deliver a quality product when we do our training. And this is a critically important program, not just for St. Tammany Parish, but for the entire state of Louisiana. Now, people will say, I don't want my money going out of St. Tammany Parish. I suspect that the people in Lafayette that I'm asking for money are going to say they don't want their money coming out of their parish either. But this is a state problem. So we're looking for funding everywhere we can get it. And the teams will be based in the localities. Right now, we're looking at a couple of teams on the North Shore, a couple of teams on the South Shore, Terrebonne Parish, Lafayette area, Lake Charles, up in the north central part of the state. I had the DA from Sabine Parish send me $250 and say, please bring this training to us. Now, that's about as far away as you can get from southeast Louisiana to Sabine Parish. And yet he understood how important this is. So we need your help. We need the public's help. And anything that anyone can do, we would be greatly appreciative. If there are any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer them for you. But thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Gene, did you have something you wanted to speak about on this?
Yeah, just briefly, Ralph and I have been on with the St. Tammany Commission on Families for a couple of years. I sit as the vice president now. I see the need for this, along with suicide prevention. Those are two things that I realized that are near and dear to my heart. I lost a brother to suicide, so I know that issue. I have friends who have had elder abuse in their families, and how it got brothers and sisters fighting with each other over an issue like that. It's something that stigmatizes a family. I want to work with the administration to see if, through community action, if we could even look at maybe writing a grant or something like that to assist in this process, because we've got Candace Mahoney and some of the other grant writers who know how to do this. I think that's the most viable way that we can help you.
Any assistance would be greatly appreciated.
Ms. Brister?
We will, Gene, obviously work on whatever we can do to help. But I will tell you this, during the storm, we got a call from a donor that wanted to send some money to someone and didn't know where to send it. We were hesitant to give them a name. We don't want to pick one, but I certainly feel comfortable calling him back and telling him your story. If he can get that money to you, then that would be great. So there are places we could look, and we will.
I'll call your office in the morning.
You don't have to. I made myself a note.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you all. And if anyone wants any more information, I have a flyer with me. I can give it to people. I'll hang around for a few minutes, and then I'll get out of your hair. God bless you for everything you did during the storm and for everything that you do for the people in St. Tammany Parish.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I could, I see we have one of our colleagues from the City of Slidell Council, the Slidell City Council, I might say my counterpart, Mr. Lionel Hicks, who's Vice President of Slidell City Council. Lionel, would you stand up? And Lionel's just simply visiting and wanted to come to one of our meetings. So Lionel is a great friend, and appreciate you stopping by, Lionel. Are we doing okay, Lionel? Good. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Lionel. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Okay, consent calendar. Any items not pulled from the consent calendar are automatically approved in whole by one vote. Items pulled from the consent calendar are discussed and voted upon individually. I have a list of items to pull. Under ordinances for introduction, item number 1, ordinance calendar number 4812, and item number 22 under ordinances for introduction, ordinance calendar number 4881. Now, under resolutions, we're going to pull, I have a request to pull item 1, 2, 4, 16, 17, 18, and 19. I'm called for the council. Any other items that you would like to have pulled? Mr. Falconer?
Number 5, please, resolution.
Resolution number 5. Okay, we got that penciled in. Any other? Mr. Bender, you have your light on?
No, sir, I'm,
Okay, administration, I believe we got the ones that you had requested. No others? Okay, anything from the audience? Okay, I need a motion
Mr. Gould.
by Mr. Canulette, second by Mr. Bellisario. Whoops,
Mr.
sorry.
I would like to make a motion to remove item number 10 under ordinances for introduction.
Okay, so we're going to need to pull that. That's item number 10. Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second accepting the number 10 as a modification. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
All right, the first item, ordinance calendar number 4812, ordinance to amend the St. Tammany Parish Unified Development Code relative to buffer, setback, and height regulations in MD3 and MD4. I'm going to ask someone move to postpone this until the October meeting, please.
So move. Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Vote with your lights. Postpone to October.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
All right, next one is under ordinances for introduction, ordinance calendar number 4869. Ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1 acre from A2 to Public Facilities 1. This is in Ward 3, District 2. I believe we had a visit from the attorney for the Fire District 12.
He was,
Yes, sir, Mr.
he was
Mr.
here,
Sharp.
but I think he, yeah.
Mr. Barnett, do you have a request with regards to this ordinance?
2.5 days.
Robert Barnett, on behalf of Fire District 12, yes, to remove it. The board has decided not to pursue the purchase of the property.
Okay. Mr. Sharp?
So moved.
Second
Move to
by
remove.
Mr. Thompson. Vote on your lights for the removal.
They're gonna do the,
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, ordinance calendar number 4881, emergency ordinance to impose a 30-day moratorium on the issuance of administrative permits for agricultural uses within the boundaries of Parish Council District Number 4. Mr. Falconer.
So moved.
All right, now we need to suspend the rules and adopt. Motions. Okay, all right, now you need to move to suspend the rules and adopt. By Mr. Bellisario. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
All right, under resolutions, item number 1C, CS number C 3411, resolution appointing Government Consultants, Inc., Government Consultants of Louisiana, Inc., that is, as independent financial advisor to the Parish of St. Tammany. Mr. Bender?
yes, sir, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has been a while in the making, and I think that if you look at your packet, the resolution in your packet, this is the, we had a few suggestions at our agenda review meeting in the previous month. We took those suggestions. I thought they were good suggestions. We removed the 2-year term, frankly, because I think it's unnecessary. Should we vote Government Consultants as our financial advisor and Mr. Ryan? I believe that they will do an outstanding job, and I don't have a need for any term. They'll serve at the will of the council. In addition, well, I'm just going to read this version as opposed to the small version.
Okay.
In just the top block. Resolution appointing Government Consultants Incorporated, AKA Government Consultants of Louisiana Incorporated, as independent financial advisor to the Parish of St. Tammany, and making its services available to any entity that requires approval of the St. Tammany Parish Council to incur indebtedness or hold an election that also requires State Bond Commission approval, and otherwise providing with respect thereto. I might add that the importance of this goes beyond just bond issues that come directly to us. I had Mike do some research for us. We on the Parish Council are responsible for voting on 47 different entities and counting. Anywhere from gravity drainage districts to the Finance Authority to sub-drainage districts, non-gravity drainage districts, sewage districts, rec districts, fire districts. 47 entities that would be getting free advice from Mr. Ryan and his colleagues unless a bond issue were done or a reissuance, at which time we would have bond counsel and other professionals involved. We need this as a council because we don't have the wherewithal to look at 47 of these and look at them closely. Let me also, just for the record, very briefly, let everyone know that Mr. Jim Ryan formerly served as Executive Director of the Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facilities and Community Development Authority, one of the state's largest issuers of municipal bonds. I looked into this. They are. And I'll tell you, they floated the bond issue on the Fritchie Park Gymnasium that I led to get built, the double court, in 2002. And let me tell you why we went with them. They had a window where they offered no fees. Imagine, no fees. Everything we spent was on the gymnasium, the soccer field. It was a no fee deal. This is just one of these options. Before that, he served as the local governmental debt officer at the Louisiana State Bond Commission while also serving as the senior debt analyst for the Louisiana State Bond Commission. He is a former state auditor. I'm going to say that again. He is a former state auditor and worked as credit analyst and economic development analyst for the Louisiana State Division of Administration. He has over 20 years' experience in the area of state and local government funding. He is a CPA, has a Master's of Science degree in accounting, and a bachelor's degree in finance. He has dealt extensively with municipal financial issues and is considered an expert in municipal debt finance. I also went out to try to do what Ms. Pat had done, and she told me that I don't know how this word started, but it got involved nationally, vetted Mr. Ryan, and so I wanted to do the same. And I have, do we have that packet from, I'm going to pass this down for the council if you'd like to just take a quick look at it. But just to give you an idea, I received a letter from Washington Parish's president, Richard N. Thomas, Jr. Just to paraphrase, I am pleased to offer you this letter of recommendation from Jim Ryan and his company, Government Consultants. Jim and his company have been financial advisor to Washington Parish for nearly 15 years and have done an excellent job. Additionally, Jim and his firm never hesitate to give back to our community by supporting many local charitable activities in our community. Got one which I won't read from the Harrison County Board of Supervisors in Mississippi. Our neighbors to the west, Tangipahoa Parish government, they've been their advisors for 10 years. West Baton Rouge Parish is 8 years. I love this one from Ascension Parish. I don't know how many years it's been, but In addition to offering their letter of recommendation, it says, additionally, Jim and his firm don't hesitate to give back to our community, and they have supported hospitals, fans for the elderly, Toys for Tots, Ascension Community Theater, et cetera, et cetera. Here's one that I was very pleasantly surprised to receive from Senator Ben Nevers. I am writing to recommend Jim Ryan and his company, Governmental Consultants. As you know, Mr. Ryan is, and everything that I pointed out, his education. Please give every consideration to Mr. Ryan and Government Consultants of Louisiana. Sincerely, Senator Ben Nevers, District 12. Livingston Parish, 3 from the Slidell City Council, including their Vice President, Mr. Hicks. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we bring on board through the resolution as it's worded in our main packet, Government Consultants Incorporated as the independent financial advisor to St. Tammany Parish, along with Mr. Jim Ryan as their lead consultant for our account.
All right, I have a motion. Second by Mr. Artigue. Any discussion? Any comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, Mr. Stefanczyk?
Yeah, I wanted to say a few words because I'm one of the people that had great problems with the resolution that was presented initially and the way it was presented. Certainly, and Mr. Bender has talked about some of those things that he has changed after our last committee meeting. The resolution has changed to the fact that, one, it no longer has a time limit on it, can terminate at will. Number two, it doesn't make it mandatory for other entities in the parish to use those people. Having checked with our legal counsel, I think that was corrected because we really can't mandate that section anyhow, and I had concerns that we were trying to do that. And three, this does outline what their responsibilities are, which the former resolution did not. So I really have never had a problem with the financial advisor, and I think in making the changes that they have made to this resolution, I'm willing to go forward with that the way it is. So, and we'll evaluate it in some period of time and see whether it's a good thing or not. But I wanted to let everybody know at least the changes that I was looking at had requested have pretty well been made. So I probably would have liked to have gone out for an RFP, but I don't see that as a necessity at this time. So thank you very much.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Sorry about that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
for the people's sake, can I just ask Mr. Ryan if he would come up and introduce himself quickly? No speeches, just to let the people in the audience know who he is. And by the way, Mr. Ryan will be working with our bond counsel, and we've also asked other bond counsels on the North Shore who might be interested, because there's opportunities for several bond counsels. Correct, Mr. Ryan?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. I had a very nice conversation with Mr. Akers outside before the meeting. I'd like to just say one thing. My name is Jim Ryan with Government Consultants Louisiana, and it's teachers. I don't think Ms. Walker's here anymore, but it's things like Ms. Walker that make my job really easy. There's a great sign in Livingston Parish outside of a subdivision on I-12. It doesn't tout the pool or the condominiums or the golf course or anything else. It says 2 words, Livingston Schools. And it's those kinds of teachers winning y'all National Teacher of the Year that keep people moving in here, that keep your property taxes high, that keep your education grades, that keep your sales taxes high. Those things impact your credit worthiness and the growth of your parish and your bond rating and stuff like that. Those kinds of teachers, my hat's off to them. I was sitting there loving to hear all that from that lady. That makes my job so much easier, because when you go to New York and you talk to Standard & Poor's about why the parish is growing, and they say, well, it's a North Shore and the education system is great and people want to live here because they don't have to pay for public schools like they do in Baton Rouge, where the average person spends $15,000 a year going to private schools. You're never going to have decreasing tax bases or property taxes when you have teachers like that. So my hat's off to the teacher tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
y'all.
Okay, moving on. Resolution, Council Series Number C, 3490, resolution to approve and authorize the parish president to sign and/or execute a cooperative endeavor agreement between the parish and the Woodlands Property Owners Association.
Haven't you skipped some?
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, I did it again. Resolution, Council Series Number C, 3472, resolution approving the issuance of not exceeding $600,000 of limited tax certificates, Series 2012, of St. Tammany Fire Protection District Number 4, State of Louisiana. Mr. Falconer, I'm going to ask you to postpone this, move to postpone until an October meeting,
Certainly, so moved.
and second by Mr. Belisario. Vote with your lights on the postponement.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
All right, we'll go back to number 4. Number C, 3490, resolution to approve and authorize parish president to sign and/or execute a cooperative endeavor agreement between the parish and the Woodlands Property Owners Association. This is in Ward 4, Districts 5 and 7. The reason I asked this to be pulled was we just wanted we didn't have an agenda review and really don't know for certain what it's about.
This is regarding a property that the parish acquired through our hazard mitigation grant program. And there are specific provisions in the grant that allows homeowners associations the ability to use this green space, and in exchange for that, they have the obligation to maintain it. So this actual property is at 358 Red Maple Drive. And it's a good thing for the subdivision. So we have this one for the Woodlands, and then the one after it is for Beau Chene.
Okay, I know
Same
where it's at,
program.
too. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Need a motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Grovey.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I got a question, maybe legally. If we then take ownership of that property in Beau Chene as part of the hazard mitigation, what does that do to the roads in there?
That's the next one on the
As far as
agenda.
opening them up or not opening them up?
That's on the next.
It doesn't affect the fact that that subdivision is still private, because this is just a single lot in that subdivision.
Mr. Belisario, you have
Yeah.
a question? Mr. Bender, your lights on?
Yes, I do. I have been talking to Gina Campo, and she will attest to it for probably 3 years for the Cross Gates subdivision, because I now have 3 consecutive lots that are vacant, and the people want to be able to use them, and Gina just kept working on it because I kept prodding, and she's come up with, I think, is a fantastic solution. And I've already sent the proposal that's coming forth to the Cross Gates board so they can review it, we can vote on it, and I can then get to Gina to get that into the system. That's a wonderful solution for, you're talking 3 lots. I mean, they're 85 by 120 or so. They're sitting there idle with grass growing, and the parish has to pay to cut the grass, which is absolutely ridiculous, but that's the way it came out. But with the administration working, they come up with a fantastic solution as far as I'm concerned.
Mr. Falconer, I believe you have a question.
Yeah, just to dovetail off what Mr. Stefanczyk was saying, my understanding was an equally problematic issue was that when the title passes, there's some question whether or not the property remains under the jurisdiction or subject to the homeowner association for that particular neighborhood. So this cleans that up. Basically by removing, as I understand it, as one lot comes out, then everybody incrementally pays a little bit more. Is that was the way I understood it. And this will take away that problem.
Well, I can't comment on what the homeowners association, how they'll handle the payment of their dues, but it is our position from a legal perspective that when the parish acquires these lots through this grant program, that as a government entity owning it for the purposes of conservation, we are not a lot owner, and thus we are not responsible for the regular homeowners association dues.
Thank you.
Okay, I need a motion in a second. Do we have it? You've got that now? We had, Mr. Grovey made the motion. Who made the second? Reed? Okay, I missed that. Vote with your lights, please. I never heard Reed second.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Control, pal. All right, Council Series Number C 3491, resolution to approve and authorize parish president to sign and/or execute a cooperative endeavor agreement between the parish and the Beauchene Homeowners Association. Mr. Falconer?
Well, you stole all my questions about this particular issue, but I did, and in fact, you even, Gene, stole my pat on the back publicly. I was going to give Gina Campo for handling this thing so well. This is a real good solution to an awkward problem. But while we're talking about Beauchene, let me just, as you can imagine, my district, I've been a little busy this last week or so, and there has been a question, and I don't really know the answer to it, when we're talking about storm removal in private subdivisions like Beauchene and the Sanctuary and Penn's Chapel Loop. I'd like to have to be able to tell the public how they coordinate that, because I understand there's an issue.
Well, that's kind of off point.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I know it's a little off point, but I have the same issues in my
All right,
district.
well, let's keep our procedure correct. Let's move, second, and vote on this item, and then I believe you have an item coming up later that you can dovetail into that at that point, okay? Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Falconer, second by Mr. Tanner. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, next item is Council Series Number C 3502, resolution to approve the appointment of Ronald Simpson as Director of Public Information for the remainder of the 2012-2015 Parish President's term of office. I got a motion by Mr. Tanner. I have a second by Mr. Falconer. Is Mr. Simpson here?
No. Mr. Simpson was a spokesperson for FEMA, and when the storm came, he was sent to Denton, because he's a reservist, to help FEMA out because of the storm. So he wrote that he would have been here tonight, but he was called up to fulfill his duties at FEMA.
Okay.
So he will be here at the next one, and he will come in and meet everyone too. He had planned to be here.
Well, we have a motion and a second, and before that, I'm going to miss you.
She's gonna be around.
I'm still going to miss her. All right, motion and second, vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Suzanne, you will not get out of here without coming up to the mic before the end of the year and talking to us and saying goodbye. Council Series Number 3503, resolution to approve the appointment of Charles E. Williams as Director of Engineering for the remainder of 2012-2015 Parish President's term of office.
So moved.
Stefanczyk, second by Mr. Tanner. Eddie, I know you're here. Come on up. Come on up.
May I, while he's coming up, may I say, he was on the job a week when Isaac hit, and he walked in and he said, "A week? A week?"
Eddie,
Yes, sir.
do you know what you're getting into?
Yes, sir, I am. I've been here a while, so I've seen them come and seen them go, so.
Well,
He just keeps hanging around and doing his job.
have you seen a mental health expert lately?
No, but I hear we got some around here that I can get. John, is he here?
Welcome aboard.
Well, thank
Vote
you.
with your lights, guys.
Marty, I got a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
The only thing I want to add to this resolution in a joking manner is that Mr. Williams has to learn how to wear a suit and tie.
Gene, please, we just got him hired.
He told me he doesn't own any.
Mr. Bender?
I just have a quick thing to say. Eddie, I'm glad you accepted the position. I told you that once before. I got to tell the public, every project that I've worked on in engineering in my district, Eddie Williams has been involved. That Old Harbor Bike Path came out magnificently, and that was Eddie Williams' project all the way. And so I have great, and Mr. Beck's in the audience from the Oak Harbor master board, okay? He can attest to it. So I have great confidence in you, Eddie. If you ever get weak-kneed, come see me. I'll get those knees straightened up for you, okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Groby?
Mr. Williams, can I give Miss Daisy your phone number?
Sure.
All right, vote with your lights.
Thank you.
Mr. Bender, turn your light off.
Excuse me.
Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Could I say?
Ms. Brisson?
Thank you very much, council members, for that. As you all know, Eddie has been around. He knows the area as well as anyone, and we're thrilled that he made the decision to take this position. And he didn't do it instantly. He thought it over and thought long and hard, but I know he's going to do a good job, and I'm very, very happy to have him.
Okay, council, you want to announce the vote? Oh, you did? It was unanimous, all right. Council Series Number C, 3504, resolution urging advanced publications to reconsider its decision to discontinue daily publication of Times-Picayune or to reconsider its decision not to sell the newspaper. Mr. Bender?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I decided to put forth this resolution for two reasons. One, I read an article, and I saved the newspaper, from the June 28th edition on the editorial page, and there was a particular response that really struck me when I thought about losing the Times-Picayune on a daily basis. And then second, I saw the outcry from within the city. The side of the New Orleans City Council voted, you know, to please stay to 7 days a week or be willing to sell the paper. Tom Benson stepped up and said, hell, I'm purchasing everything else, you know, I'll buy the paper. I'll put some people together. And so I just want to go through a few quick facts, and I have to tell you, our part-time legal counsel, who now works for Terry, Neil, did tremendous background work on this, and I want to point out just a few key things that he found out. Number one, we all know it was announced that with the 3-day-a-week publishing schedule, its monthly subscription price will drop from $18.95 to a huge drop down to $16.95. So 3 days a week, we get a $2 price drop from 7 days a week. I don't think that's fair. The New Orleans City Council unanimously passed a resolution asking them to keep it. Tom Benson offered to buy it. Senator Vitta made a point that he did not believe that the new model for the Times-Picayune would serve the region well, and that NOLA.com website was terribly inadequate. Joshua Benton, director of the Neiman Journalism Lab, reportedly said that, quote, "There's a part of me that wants to applaud them for trying something substantially different, but I don't have a lot of faith in Advance's, that's the parent company, ability to do anything worthwhile on the web. Their sites are among the worst in the newspaper journalism business. Their sites are broken, clunky, and they all look like they were built in 1998. As I said, Neil did some good research. The rapid rise in digital adoption by consumers and advertisers is irreversible, Mr. Steve Newhouse with the paper said in an August 3rd editorial for the Poynter Institute of Journalism School. In contrast to this position, General Motors, the nation's third largest advertiser, says it has stopped buying Facebook ads because they don't produce car sales. GM is only the latest company to question whether Facebook, despite its 900 million users, is an effective use of advertising dollars. The following article on the expectations of digital advertising is noteworthy by Jennifer Saba of Reuters. And I'll paraphrase. As more newspapers cut back on print to reduce costs and focus on their websites, a troubling trend has emerged. Online advertising sales are stalling. In the first quarter, they only rose 1%. The fifth consecutive quarter that growth has declined, according to the Newspaper Association of America. A flood of excess advertising space, the rise of electronic advertising exchanges that sell ads at cut-rate prices, and the weak U.S. economy are all contributing to the slowdown, publishing executives and observers say. For an industry savaged by the erosion of print advertising dollars, significantly boosting digital revenue is necessary for survival. But the double-digit online growth rates that many newspapers used to enjoy, and on which their hopes for a prosperous future rest, could be a thing of the past. So, given the fact that we're losing our 70, 80-year-old daily local newspaper, and I'm not going to read this, but this 90-year-old father, the daughter writes in, "My dad cannot read the paper any longer due to failing eyesight, and it has always been my pleasure to read it to him. It is some quality time for us each and every day. I read him all the news, share the comics, and keep him updated on all the sports scores. His hearing is also not as good as it once was, and television is not a good option for him. I hope the powers that be have put themselves in the same situation as the elderly who rely on their daily newspaper. Although my dad cannot read for himself, I know he appreciates the fact that the daily paper is there for him. Let those who rely on online news have their news, but please reconsider those of us who thrive on the daily print. You too will be elderly one day." So, Mr. Chairman, don't know that this will do much good, but in an effort to try to save the jobs of many, many people, this resolution is to either go back to 7 days a week plan or be reasonable and put it up for sale. And with that, I'll make a motion.
All right, got a motion, second by Mr. Stefanczyk. Any other comments? Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, Council Series Number C-3505, resolution requesting the National Football League and Commissioner Roger Goodell to return the $500,000 Saints fine dollars to the greater New Orleans community in charitable support of youth recreation. Mr. Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is my last resolution, by the way, fans, for tonight. Some people out there appreciate it, I think. But look, here's the thing. Whether you agree with what happened or not, the fact is $500,000 of season ticket holders' money and fans that go buy tickets for every game when they can get them is leaving the greater New Orleans area. That's a fact, and that's a shame. The NFL can pretty much do what they want. All I'm asking here is this, and I worked out a method. Orleans Parish has a population share of 31%. They would get $156,000 of this money for their youth recreation. Jefferson Parish makes up 39% of the $500,000. They would get $197,000. St. Tammany Parish makes up 21.3%, and our dollar share of the fine would be $106,500 for youth sports in our community here. St. Charles Parish is also part of the greater New Orleans area. 52,000 people would get 4.8% of 24,000, and St. Bernard Parish, the last of the 5 metro parishes, would get 3.3% or $16,500. So at least the $500,000, which, Mr. Benson, it is his money. He earned it. But we spent it. I don't think this should be spent in New York. I don't think it should be spent, even though it is spent for charity, and I know the NFL spends for charity. I'd like it to come back to New Orleans and the greater New Orleans area, and I'd like to make a motion.
Motion, second by Ms. O'Brien. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
All right, let's move on to appeals. The first
Chairman.
one.
Could we Would you entertain a motion to open the off-the-floor agenda and move?
Yeah,
the
thank
item
you
up?
for reminding me. Move up, let's see, we need a vote to open up off-the-floor items. Second by Mr. Smith. Vote with your lights to open up, and this has got to be a unanimous vote. He wants to bring up number 1.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
All right, the first item would be a presentation, Atmos Energy presenting and describing its storm preparedness plan and how it responds to gas leaks during storm events. Mr. Falconer? And you can also expound into the debris question that you had. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had asked for a representative for Atmos Energy to be present this evening. Do we have a representative? Yes, sir. Would you please come forward? State your name and give your address for the record.
My name is Steve Koch, and I'm with the operations manager for Atmos Energy, here in the North Lake area. And my office is just right around the corner in Alamosa Business Park.
Great. We appreciate you coming this evening, Mr. Koch.
Thank you, sir.
It's nice to see you. I have a couple of questions about the response of Atmos during this most recent Hurricane Isaac storm event. First question is really pretty basic. How does a customer determine where to call when there's a natural gas emergency?
Okay. All emergencies for Atmos Energy go through an 800 number. We have centralized dispatching, so it all does go to one number, whether that's an emergency number or any time after hours number. During hours, there is a customer service number. I can give those numbers if you would like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. The emergency number for Atmos Energy, this is the one for after hours. It's 1-866-322-8667. And the customer service number is 1-866-286-6700.
So basically, after hours, it's not the same number as if you've got a billing question.
No, they go to the same location, but, obviously for emergency purposes, then we want to expedite that quicker than someone just calling in saying, is gas available in a certain location?
Right.
Or, a general question.
Have you
Yes, sir.
traced down how much time it takes to go through the prompts when they're attempting to report a natural gas emergency?
I understand where you're going with that, and I know that is being addressed. We're in the process right now of purchasing and building a new customer service system. The reason I say that is because Atmos Energy has grown greatly over the last few years through acquisition. We're mainly in 9 states now, and the majority of Atmos's natural gas customers are in 85% are in Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi.
So you certainly recognize that in a natural gas emergency, every minute counts while you're trying to work through the system. What's your target time for response to one of those emergencies?
Well, under normal circumstances, that the target time or the time we're regulated under is an hour, but in actuality, it's usually within 18 to 20 minutes. And that's under normal circumstances, not storm circumstances.
Well, once a natural gas leak has been reported, I want you to take me through the steps that you typically address. For instance, where is that call center? Where is that call taken?
Okay, there are 2 locations for call centers, and they're both in Texas. One is in Lubbock and one is in Waco.
So how does the communication take place between that person in Waco or in Lubbock and the field technician that has to actually go in and respond to the emergency?
Okay, once again, under normal circumstance or normal working conditions, in that it's dispatched directly to a computer in the vehicle of the employee. So that order is dropped to that employee. Now after hours, that is a little bit different. If an emergency call goes into the call center in either Waco or Lubbock, then we have what we call supervisor on call You know, so in other words, there's a supervisor on call that they would dispatch that emergency.
So there is in fact a local dispatcher that handles that call and can make a local assessment?
No, sir, it's not a dispatcher, it would be the local supervisor, whether that's in Monroe, in North Louisiana, or down this way, or.
So you do have someone down this way, specifically where would that person be located down this way?
In this particular area, in St. Tammany, it would, once again, it would be right in Alamosa Business Park.
So that person has the ability to monitor the streets and access to facilities in the local service area?
Once again, under normal conditions, but not during the height of the storm.
Well, tell me then how those steps are modified in an extreme weather event.
Well, I mean, it's.
Well, let me help you
the
out,
only- Go ahead.
Mr. Koch. Maybe, or let me ask you specifically, are personnel and equipment pre-positioned prior to a named storm event like we had over the last 2 weeks?
Yes, sir. Actually, what we do is like most, you know, all utilities do, and in fact, we had representatives in your EOC, you know, here, Emergency Operating Center, as we do, you know, have employees also in all EOCs in any of the affected areas.
Well, I'm not so much thinking about individuals in the EOC. I'm talking about the troops in the field and the trucks and the vehicles that are going to respond to the actual natural gas emergency in a specific location. Are those pre-positioned?
Yes, yes. We stage all equipment, resources, people, you know, and so on in strategic
Where are they
conditions.
staged in this local area to serve our district?
Once again, it depends on the.
Well, specific to Madisonville, where are they staged?
Specific to Madisonville?
Yes.
Once again, that would be right here in the Mandeville office.
At Alamosa then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How far in advance of landfall of a named storm do you actually pre-position that equipment, or is it there at Alamosa all the time?
No, that equipment would be there all the time. The only equipment we may have moved would depend on the severity and direction of any storm. For instance, you know, we had to move equipment out of Lower Plaquemines and St. Bernard, you know, to
So how do you
higher ground.
monitor the weather? Is it strictly done through the EOC?
No, so that's one of the tools, but, you know, obviously we use the same tools that everybody else uses, you know, that you use for.
So specifically, how does the
determining-
local manager that's directing response, emergency response, how does he get an understanding of what's going on in the weather conditions during an extreme storm event?
Well, much like any of the rest of us do, you know, simply by watching the news and you know, we don't venture out during the height of the storm, you know, but we gather our information in the same ways, whether it's internet or, you know, or watching television or participation in EOCs and so on.
So at what wind level or wind speed do you consider holding your troops in from responding to a weather event or natural gas leak, sorry?
Well, we're unlike our electric counterparts, you know, which have to put, you know, their employees up in buckets and you know, are more susceptible to, you know, the wind speeds and so on. You know, our facilities, for the most part, are underground. You know, so the biggest impediment for us is water. You know, inability to get to a control valve or, you know, any type of valve to either shut off or so on. You know.
So in the event of a high water event, how then are those water conditions monitored?
Well, a lot of it is dictated to us. You know, for instance, we have attempted numerous times to, you know, to go out on a leak of some sort or whatever, but, you know, we're turned back most of the time by officials, whether that's police or fire.
Well,
for
what's
going
the,
into high water.
Yeah, what's your
areas.
basic equipment depth on your emergency equipment?
I don't know that we have a specific, you know, depth on it. You know, we have the larger trucks or vehicles and that, but once again, it's not so much getting to the location, it's not being able to dig underground. You know, and once again, if we have to do anything underground, you know, of course, we're subject to, you know, all the DOTI laws and, you know, Louisiana One Call as well.
Well, I can tell you that when there's a natural, I can certainly say that when there's a natural gas leak in a residential neighborhood, my constituents, I think I can speak on their behalf, that we would prefer that you respond immediately unless there's some absolute physical impediment to your ability to access the site. I'm just surprised, what I'm taking away from your presentation is that there really is no measurement by which you determine whether or not a neighborhood or a potential gas leak is inaccessible. Is that correct? So there's no, you don't have like a wind speed maximum or a water depth maximum. It's just kind of at the whim of that supervisor that's on call that night.
I wouldn't go as far as saying that, but no, there are no specific
So what do you think is the
guidelines
maximum time then that's acceptable for a response to a gas leak?
Once again, it's an hour is what is the
So you would say
the
30
industry norm.
You would say that 36 hours is unacceptable then, correct?
Once again, depending on the circumstances, yes, sir.
How much gas do you suspect can escape from a 30 or 3/4 inch gas line in about 36 hours?
I'd have to
It'd be a
calculate
lot.
that.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Mr. Koch. It's nice to see you this evening. I hope we'll see you again. I've requested a copy of their hurricane preparedness plan and have asked them to provide the specific protocol for natural gas breaks specific to each of our 14 council districts. I ask that an analysis of that protocol be included in the after-action report of parish government with an assessment of its adequacy. I would also like to request that a representative of Atmos Energy be present at our council meetings in the future. Madam President, in our review of the budget this year, I really believe that one of the things we need to discuss is part of our capital budget, including some expenditure on high water vehicles. Certainly the District 4 and the area that I've just recently assumed over in what was formerly District 1, Madisonville, going out to Tangipahoa Parish, experienced, as you know, an extreme water event, and I would like to be assured, and I'd like to be able to assure my constituents that we can gain access if we need to.
We could, and we did have high water vehicles when they were requested. We went through Web EOC, and they were supplied to us. It may take us a couple hours to get them, but a lot of them were stationed here out at Camp Billary. So when we needed some, we had to put the request in through their process, and we could get them. Did I understand
Well, no, that
that you
clarifies
wanted
something
us?
for me.
Yeah.
No, that's new information, and I appreciate that good information. And Mr. Koch, can I suggest that in your hurricane preparedness plan that you include coordination at your representative at the EOC with the administration for those high water assets when we have an instance of a natural gas emergency take place in the future?
Certainly.
You know, one of the other things, Madam President, that I thought might be helpful in our discussion of hurricane evacuation, one of the things that we have, you know, in all of the hurricanes that I've been engaged in for going these many years now, we've gotten into the habit of determining evacuation zones by geographic areas, and I think it might be a good idea to rethink that, and based on the projections for the slosh study and how the surge is going to, as best we can predict what the surge is going to be. In the future, when we make recommendations to our constituents on evacuation, rather than just using an arbitrary, you know, Highway 22 or Highway, you know, Interstate 12, perhaps we can do it based on the storm surge. So if you're, you know, if the projection is 12 feet or the projection is 10 feet, you know, maybe we can make that as the recommendation.
Well, that would be a wonderful projection if we had that in advance, which we did not.
Right.
We do have a plan, actually, for evacuation in a specific manner. It starts at 36 hours out. We were 34, H minus 34 when we first got the notice of this hurricane and where it might come, as you may recall, when it was sitting out there. So the evacuation plan was not effective at that point in time. That's when we went on radio, TV, sent out all the emails and went on Facebook. Suzanne did an excellent job advising everyone in low-lying areas, particularly below 22 and 190 Business in Slidell. We didn't know, obviously, you know, if we'd known, we would have called
Sure.
it, so.
Yeah, on Tuesday, we were all, you know, thinking this might not even be a named storm, so it,
We have talked with federal authorities, federal agencies, that we need a new way of describing a hurricane. Not hurricane category 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, but the effects of what might happen. We knew it would be a wet one, but no one had any idea, because it has never happened before, that we would get that lake surge, and that's being researched as we speak by federal authorities and state authorities as to what may have caused that. But no one expected that, believe me. Had I ever thought that that surge would be that high, I'd be the first one to call that evacuation.
yeah. And believe me, my comments are not directed as criticism, because I thought you guys did a great job, and I've been just keeping my little notes as we went through, hoping that I could make some recommendations, just, you know, how to perhaps do a little bit better. Poor Madisonville, I'm afraid, will never be the same. It just breaks my heart.
There are several areas that never will be
Right.
the same, including St. John and
Right.
many other areas.
Right.
Yeah. Reed, you got debris?
Yeah, we had another question about private subdivisions. Madam President, can we just get the word out on what steps need to be taken so we can coordinate collection of storm debris?
Sure. When a subdivision or an area becomes a private subdivision, then we have no rights of way. That's where we pick up debris. In Katrina, it was requested that they be included in the pickup areas, because it was determined that they were an impairment to emergency vehicles. That's how we got it. We have requested again for Isaac that FEMA allow that to be an acceptable situation also, that we can pick up in private neighborhoods. We have not had an answer yet, but if we do, then those neighborhoods would have to sign a release that allows us to come on their private property to pick that up. It's a matter of private property and rights of way. It's just a legality issue more than anything else. So we are trying, and if we do, we'll send out that notice.
Yeah, and the description that I've received and I've tried to pass on to the constituents is that there's a problem if your storm debris is in a black plastic bag. Is that still an issue?
That is an issue, in that when those black bags are picked up, for us to be reimbursed by FEMA, we have to know that that's debris in those bags, so they have to be opened up to see what's in those bags. So we've asked that they not do that, because it just slows down the process. We cannot be reimbursed unless we determine that that's debris.
Right.
Yeah, it has to be separated. You know, every storm that we experience, we learn new things. My observation of this last storm was that the people that work for us and the people that were out there with their boots on the ground throughout this thing were doing the very best they could and did a very efficient job. You asked questions about the storm surge going further in than was expected, and frankly, the Weather Service's numbers were wrong. We kept disagreeing with them back and forth, and we weren't right. So it became a very difficult situation because of the length of time that this storm sat on top of us. Even with that, though, I still think we did pretty darn good getting out there and getting things squared away. We got people out when we needed them. When we realized that we still had people out there, the Sheriff's Department was out there, the National Guard, which one of the greatest improvements that I've seen is that we didn't have to wait for the National Guard. They were already stationed here and helping us right from the get-go. They had deep water vehicles, and I believe they assisted in removing people from the flooded areas and rescuing them. Overall, I think we learned a few things, but at the same time, the performance by Ms. Brister and the staff and everyone involved in the effort to fight this thing did just a wonderful job.
one final point.
Sure.
One little issue that bugs me every time we go through one of these is AT&T's cell service coverage. I wish they would, I wish they would build a system based on peak demand rather than average demand.
It took it away from you, huh? Mr. Bender, and then we're gonna.
Real quickly, I think Mr. Falcon has said it all. Did very, very well. Mr. Falcon, the one thing I'd like to just recommend with your resolution is that Atmos submit their hurricane preparedness plan in person at our June council meeting each month. Because I'll tell you, I mean, you know, that's the start of the hurricane season, okay? I don't know if you agree with that, or if you want to do it in May. I happened to call Mr. Falconer at one point in time when his neighborhood had this major break. And it certainly was scary, to say the least, for everybody in that neighborhood. So thank you.
Mr. Dean, I believe you've got something you would like to say?
Yes, I'm
And
gonna
then
say-
I'll take comment from the floor.
Say this real quick. I represent the Madisonville area. It is incredibly sad to see what happened to that place from more, I mean, just old, very old places. What the city hall had 6 or so feet in it. It only had about 3 or so, 3.5 during Katrina. It's incredibly sad. But regarding evacuation, I'm just going to say this one thing. There are many, many, many things that have to be decided. I run a nursing home, as many of you know, with about 110 or 12 elderly citizens in it. And I can think of the nursing home that I run. There are probably about 4 or 5 others that are south of I-12 if you head towards Slidell. So the decision that Ms. Brister made, and those, but the decision to make, anytime a nursing home, just for an example, just using that, anytime a nursing home is evacuated, somebody's going to die. You know, somebody will die. They just will, because you have bed-bound people, you got folks who are on oxygen constantly, you got all that. So all of that has to go into a decision. Not only is it going to flood, are people going to ruin their, you know, have houses, water in their houses, all that, but what's going to happen if I evacuate? So anyway, I just wanted to say that. I admire the job that you did.
Yes, sir. State your name for the record,
I'm
please.
Bob Beck, an officer of Oak Harbor Properties and so forth, and live down there. I'm elected by the members in the Homeowners Association.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to bring to your all's attention that we had one resident die in the storm, drowned, because he tried to evacuate at Oak Harbor. I think he was going for medical help, really, but because he was an older guy and he had some medical issues. But he was driving his car, tried to get out the Oak Harbor exit. Freddie had sandbagged Pontchartrain, Highway 11, so that exit was blocked. The bridges were shut down, basically, with the high wind and so forth. And when that water just started backing up, he tried to get out. We had several other cars get flooded, go off. Number had to be towed out of there. One went into Lakeshore side, into the water, got pulled out a couple days later. It was so deep, nobody even knew it was there. And my thing is at the peak of the storm, surge, not the wind, the storm surge. It was very terrifying to see at maybe 9.5 feet, 10 feet of water, whatever we had, but the water in Lake Pontchartrain through Pebble Beach Drive Canal was pouring down Oak Harbor Boulevard into the subdivisions from the back, okay? And that's something that we had never had seen that before. Of course, we saw it in Katrina. That was a tidal wave, 3 tidal waves, actually. But it poured down Oak Harbor Boulevard from the back, and if it had lasted more than about the 6 hours it did, 7 hours it did, it would probably have flooded the whole front side of inlets, fairways, so forth, subdivisions on those areas on the Oak Harbor side. And another interesting point was coming out of Slidell, you may still see a lot of water at the Oak Harbor exit on the Lakeshore side. And you say, well, where did all that water come from? Well, I think the pump down at the end kind of died on them, that Slidell used to pump it out. But we also saw another river of water coming down from Slidell off the Grand Champion side of the interstate. Between the interstate and Grand Champions, it was like a river coming down that, also flooding our lakes from the backside. And of course, when our power goes down, the Pebble Beach pumps are only electric. So when the power went down, we were dead in the water trying to get that out. My thanks to the Jerry Bender and Terry at the new parish attorney that we got Drainage District 5 cranked up because they were able to repair and get rebuilt the 2 diesel pumps that kicked in when the power went down. And Sid Abear, who's now the chairman of that drainage district, has done an outstanding job with that drainage district. So that worked very well and protected 3 of the subdivisions in Oak Harbor. So I just want to make that comment that we did lose some people, but we, at one point, my thought was if this got a little worse, you've got 4,000 to 5,000 people trapped.
Mr. Chairman.
If you would, get with DeEtte Smythe in engineering.
Real well.
Give DeEtte
details?
synopsis of,
Sure.
of all of your observations, because all of that helps
Right.
when we do our plan. Mr. Bender?
Yeah, Bob, I just wanted to say, and really let the public know, our parish president, Marty is our chairman, and myself as vice chairman. We attended a meeting, this past Tuesday morning with Senator Vitter at Slidell City Hall.
Yeah.
And, Ms. Bristol brought up about St. John Parish and LaPlace, and Marty's talking about 6 feet of water at Mandeville City Hall. I mean, it's all so sad. Out of sadness sometimes comes something good. Hopefully, the one thing I think I heard at the meeting we had, and there was a whole lot of people there, is because of this kind of misery loves company thing, that we weren't the only ones who flooded, the attention is more on now putting gates at the Wrigley's. And that's really the ultimate solution, Bob. I mean, if we
I'll
don't-
make one quick comment on that because I've been to almost every Corps of Engineers drainage meeting for the last 4 years, 5 years. That was proposed and passed by the Corps of Engineers way back in 1975, 78. Those gates were designed, the Chef gates were designed. They were going to use the old railroad track, carry it up into Mississippi. The real problem is we had it all approved after Katrina to do that. The Corps did. People don't know this. It was really something they were going to do. And the Mississippi congressional delegation voted it out because their people said, if we block the water at the Wrigley's and we block the water at the Chef and we block all that water coming in, it's going straight up into Mississippi. It's going to flood Waveland all the way to Pascagoula. And the hydrologist from Mississippi that I talked to, who made a presentation at one of the meetings, he said, well, the maximum might be a 6-inch surge. We also heard that the maximum coming across the lake after a storm, we asked that question too with the new levees over in the marsh area that they blocked off in New Orleans by putting that there. They said, the hydrologist said, oh, it's only going to be about 6 inches in a major storm. Well, turned out to be more than 6 inches.
They're revisiting that issue at this point.
Yeah, I know.
They made it real clear that they need to take a look at the thing again.
Right. That's been my
So-
experience so far dealing with that.
All right, I'm going to,
One more. Before I yield
All
the
right.
floor, I do have one constituent from Black River, Mr. Doug Singer, that had asked if he could have a moment to address the council. Mr. Singer?
Again, my name is Doug Singer, and I live in Black River Forest. And with me tonight is a couple other members of Black River Forest. My purpose in addressing the council is to offer some ideas to improve the reliability of power, specifically CLECO, and phone systems, AT&T. And in addition, I want to comment on the ever-increasing problem of potential flooding in our subdivision. Power issues during Isaac. We lost power Tuesday evening around 10 o'clock. At approximately 6:45 p.m. on Thursday, I contacted CLECO by phone because in accessing CLECO's website, we still were on the Madisonville substation. After talking to the customer service rep and then the supervisor, I finally got them to understand that what I was asking was to be taken off of the Madisonville substation and put onto a different substation. And that conversation probably ended around 7 o'clock that evening. At 10:30 that night, power was restored. Now, I don't know if my call prompted the change or if that was already a decision that CLECO makes generally. What I do know is that our power, and I found this out on Friday, was restored at the same time as the Dominion subdivision had theirs turned on. And I know for a fact from looking again at CLECO's grid pattern that they were never on the Madisonville substation. So that brings us to a point of discussion is what can we do with the Madisonville Power substation? To us, the answer is obvious. Have the parish, and I guess this has to be done through the Public Service Commission, but have the parish insist that CLECO move the substation to a more secure location, build it up, do something with it, because it is absolutely in a flood zone. I had sent Reed a couple of pictures that I took on Friday, and I'm sorry, I just got two of each. Maybe I can pass these around to somebody.
Yeah.
But it'll show you that Friday morning, the CLECO people were still waiting around in water trying to figure out what they were going to do with the substation. The other option is if CLECO says that they don't want to move the substation, would be to just make sure that not only Black River Forest, but Madisonville Oaks, Claiborne Oaks, all these that are hooked up to the Madisonville substation be moved to a different substation on a permanent basis. The next issue that I want to talk about has to do with the increasing likelihood of flooding in Black River Forest. After Katrina, we saw the entities of the parish approve building of a number of subdivisions. And specifically, we got involved in it and we came to the council because there was a request to expand Autumn Creek into a phase, I think it was 2 or 3, I forget now. And we were concerned because this was going to create less opportunity for ground absorption. And not only does, I'm pointing with my arms, Black River comes from this way, but there's more drainage streams that come through Paraloo, underneath Paraloo. One of the other questions we asked is, can you push that back? And I believe it was Marty Dean at the time got a delay of 1 year, I believe, in that enhancement of the Autumn Creek. But in addition to that, we asked the question, we're hearing a rumor there's going to be a new school. Is there going to be proper drainage or catch basin for that? No new school. Well, now we know there was a new school. The new school's built and operating. During the storm, I needed more gas for my generator, so I went out looking for gas because Black River Estates was flooded because of Black River. I couldn't access that way. So I drove down to Paraloo, up Paraloo to Brewster, Brewster over to 1077, and finally found a gas station. Right? Water was going over the top of Brewster in a couple locations, and I'm sure that's not a surprise to anybody that lives in that area. Paraloo also showed that some water had gone over it. That water all flows into what becomes Black River. It runs right through our subdivision. We have people in our subdivision have been there over 15 years. They've never seen water as high as we had. Candidly, I mean, it was a little scary. We bought there because it's high, right? Well, I don't know how high is high now. You know, how much do we need in the way of high? It just seems to me that here we are 6 years later, and we're still talking about the same problem, which is we're just depending on these streams to move the water. We don't seem to have, at least I don't know of a plan. If there is one, I'd love to see what we're doing about trying to funnel some of this drainage. All I see is developer puts in something here, and his responsibility is that development. Where does the water go? You know, we can have a retention pond. The retention ponds were overflowing at one point, I think, during the storm. So we need some kind of relief, and we would like to see from somebody, you know, what is being done about the flooding problems. AT&T, you know, I think it's criminal that company like AT&T, landlines, you know, it was Tuesday morning before we had clean communication on AT&T lines to include DSL and those sort of things. If we'd had a big wind event along with the flooding and cell towers go down, then we're all in the dark again. And it just seems to me that need to do something about it. I understand that AT&T might have a control piece in the town of Madisonville, similar to what CLECO has with that substation. If that's true, and I haven't verified that, but if that's true, it's located almost adjacent to the power substation. So they're in a hole too. And again, I'm sure when those units went in, a long time ago, and Madisonville town was it, but we're way past Madisonville town now in terms of development and homes and all that. And I think that we need to kind of go through the Public Service Commission, if that's the right venue, get these things to harden them, for lack of a better term, so they can, you know, make it through storms and we aren't left in the dark without being able to communicate. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Singer. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
That's it for me, Marty.
All right. All right, let's go back to the regular agenda, and we're on appeals. First item, Wayne Burris, representing Kelly McHugh, appealing the zoning commission denial on August 7, 2012, to rezone 150.97 acres south of East Brewster Road, west of the Chilfuncta River, from MD1, A3, and A4 to MD1, A3, A4, and PUD, Plan Unit Develop Ward 1, District 1. Mr. Dean, I believe you had a request to table this?
That's correct.
Okay, is a representative here? I don't see Mr. Burris.
Mr.
Mr. Malone, that's correct? Okay, thank you, sir.
Motion
You have a
to table.
motion to table, postpone until next month. Second by Mr. Canulette. Vote with your lights on the table.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, next appeal, Carlo Hernandez appealing the zoning commission approval on August 7th, 2012 to rezone .907 acre located south of LA Highway 1088, east of Forest Brook Boulevard, from A2 to NC2, Ward 4, District 7. Mr. Hernandez, you have 5 minutes and then 2 minutes of rebuttal time. Is there a representative of the people who were given approval on this? Yes, ma'am. Okay. You will have equal amount of time to speak on the issue, which will be 5 minutes, and then a 2-minute rebuttal time to address the issue. Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you. I'm asking that some pictures, actually there are 6 pictures that I'm going to talk about in a minute. My name is Carlo Hernandez. I live in the Forest Brook subdivision, which is directly behind the area that's being proposed for rezoning. I'm also on the board of directors of the Forest Brook Subdivision Homeowners Association, and the board of directors voted to oppose this zoning change. If you would look at the pictures here, the top 2 pictures are for the same property, and that's the property that's next to our subdivision on the western side. One, you see that it says it's 11.35 acres, and that's where the kennel is situated. Some of the property is in fact vacant. It's been for sale for a number of years. So we have commercial property for sale. Now, the one on the left, bottom left, is as you enter the subdivision from Highway 1088, It is, and oh, these pictures were taken a week ago, Monday. So the one on the right you'll see on the bottom was slightly injured by the storm, by the hurricane. But the one on the left is 2.48 acres. That's also been for sale for a number of years. As you're leaving 1088, I'm sorry, the subdivision of Forest Brook onto 1088, that piece of property is 5.32 acres. And that piece of property is the property that's right next to this proposed piece here of 0.907 acre. Obviously, that's been for sale for some time too, so I think there's some question whether there's any need for additional property. If you turn the page, on the next page, you see a for sale sign there too, and I don't know if you can read the smaller print right under for sale. It says 92,000 square feet of vacant land. All of these properties are vacant with the exception of part of the kennel. That piece of property is a residential piece of property. It's on Highway 1088. And then the bottom piece, the for sale, is also, that's the closest one sign-wise to the piece of property that we're going to speak about. The interesting thing about that is if you looked at the report, its survey showed that the relationship of the drainage canal on this piece of property that's under consideration now. And if the survey is correct, then this for sale sign is on their property, because if the survey is correct, they have about 110 feet of property on the western side of this canal, and this sign is approximately 10 feet from the western side of the canal. So that's interesting that, that someone, obviously, either the survey is not correct or someone made a mistake in putting up this for sale commercial sign. The other thing too is across the street from our subdivision is another 2.21 acres that's also been for sale for some time, also vacant. Next to that piece of property, 2 years ago, September, as a matter of fact, the zoning commission considered and denied a request for 1.6 acres of residential property, which was adjacent to this commercial property, and now, and it was appealed to the parish council, and the parish council also upheld the denial. So now, 2 years later, now we're talking about a piece of property that's across the street, 0.907 acres, and where is the need for this additional? I mean, you see the for sale signs all over Highway 1088, and the best part is that not all of the property that's commercial is up for sale. So there are other additional properties that are commercial now that still have not been developed, and virtually all of them are vacant. So I guess my point is that the 2025 land use plan called for this piece of property to be residential. After 2 years of review in the comprehensive rezoning, and it was the first area to be comprehensively rezoned. After 2 years, this parish council.
You're into your rebuttal time.
This parish council continued to designate this area as residential. So I would hope that you would reverse the decision of the zoning commission and keep this area residential as the members of the subdivision of Forest Brook would like. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Please state your name for the record and your address.
My name is Patricia Peterson, and I represent my mother, one of the heirs, Claire Pizzuto, as well as the remaining heirs to this property. And I have also brought a couple of and what is being passed around is the property within that area that have also been zoned commercial, and they've been zoned neighborhood commercial for. And It's very close to our property, and in fact, part of this .9 acres that is divided by a ditch has already been zoned commercial as part of the zoning board here in St. Tammany. So with that being said, part of it is already zoned commercial, and what we're asking to be zoned commercial is the remainder of that property. It sits on 1088, and of course, I can't really foresee putting a residential, a house or anything like that on 1088 and on this small piece of property. We also have included in the handout an ordinance from September 2011 in which a piece of property on the same side of the street in District 7 was also zoned commercial just as September of last year. And so we feel as though we would be asking the councilman to please vote for this property to be entirely zoned commercial and not just part of its own commercial. And the sign that was being referred to is on our property. So the survey is correct that I did submit, and unfortunately, our neighbor, and I have called him on several occasions, does have his sign on our property.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Hernandez.
You know, it's interesting that the reference is made to residential now, how we could, you know, there are homes between this proposed property and I-12, the interchange. There are homes sitting on 1088 right now on there. And obviously, there's the vast majority of the property, even though I would probably, it's in a 50-50 if you're looking at the thing, there's lots of residential property that's on Highway 1088. And I guess the thing is that I would hope that you would consider the long-range land use plan, the comprehensive rezoning that took place. And one other point about Highway 1088, I think you know in front of this property and in front of our subdivision, it is one lane in each direction. There's no turning lane. The traffic is horrendous trying to, during certain peak hours, and trying to get out of that subdivision. Obviously, as if additional commercial property would only add to that problem. And obviously, we would much rather have residences on Highway 1088 than commercial establishments. It obviously makes sense that with residences, we have less traffic generated from those. And I would hope that you would look at your long-range plan and at the comprehensive rezoning plan and keep the area residential. So I'm asking that you consider reversing the zoning commission and keeping the area residential. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, you have some remaining time if you feel the need to rebut.
Well, once again, the property was already zoned by the parish. We had not requested, they've already zoned part of it as commercial, and so therefore we would like to keep it all commercial. And we don't have any intentions of defacing the property or taking any of the trees down or making it an eyesore for 1088. We are closer to I-12 than some of the other ones that have already been zoned commercial. And according to the zoning commission, I was told that it is in the 2025 plan for that piece of property, the entire piece, to be zoned commercial.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to close the floor and go to Mr. Groby. You have a question?
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Stefancic, you had, sorry, you had a light on. All
I've,
right, Mr. Belisario.
It was just so you could have the timer off.
Oh, okay, thank you.
This is in my district. I've driven up and down Highway 1088. After sitting out there with DOTD, I'm well versed with the traffic issues that we have coming out of Forest Brook, but this particular piece of property is only asking for NC2. Everything surrounding it's NC4. This is not going to add A2, any other traffic problems there. And quite honestly, nobody in this state, after Highway 1088 is changed, is going to ever really want to build a house on 1088. So to keep this property A2 really just simply does not make any sense. No one's going to build a residence on 1088 at this stage.
You want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the approval of the zoning board.
I'll
recommendation.
second it.
Concur. In second by Mr. Bellisario, I
Yes.
say?
Yes.
Mr. Bellisario, I think you have your light on.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted was really for Sydney, the original proposal was to go to NC4, then it was down to NC2, so I presume that was through the zoning commission discussions that the panel thought it was more reasonable with NC2?
Actually, the application indicated NC 1 or 2. I know that there were at least some discussions about what would be appropriate between myself and one of the property owners before the application was made.
Okay.
So that may have been what you heard, where they were actually talking at least NC4, perhaps highway commercial, trying to maximize the value of the property. And I think I recall discussing with one of the property owners that I didn't see anything above neighborhood, but because everything else was neighborhood commercial, that'd be your best shot.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Vote with your lights, please.
Whoa, what happened there? I have 15 votes. Did I hit mine? Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
For the record, we had 15 votes. The machine went nuts. All right, you want to move on introduction? Mr. Grover, you want to move on introduction of ordinance?
Yes, so moved.
Okay, it's second by Mr. Tanner, that's all we need to do. All right, under ordinances for adoption. Ordinance calendar number 4771, ordinance to amend the Parish Unified Development Code regarding outdoor advertising billboards. It was approved by the Zoning Commission on July 3rd. I have a note here that needed to be amended. The amendment is under Section D, 3D, and off-premise sign must be located within the same highway corridor which a billboard credit was issued. Now, what's being added is or within 8 miles of the original site from which the billboard credit was issued. This is my amendment. It was the ordinance that I had proposed. And the reason I'm doing this is to give them a little bit more flexibility, but not allowing somebody to move a billboard from Guards Boulevard and then go bring it all the way over here to this side of the parish. We want they're in general areas, and we're just trying to restrict it some. So I asked someone to move on the amendment, and we need to vote on the amendment. We had a second. Bellisario. Oh, you made the motion, Mr. Bender. All right, vote with your lights on the amendment. You pressed my no vote? I must have hit it by accident. Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Gould verbally changed his vote to a yay. Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Pressed the wrong button. I do that every meeting. All right. Now we need to move on the ordinance. This is less restrictive, therefore we can pass it. By Mr. Bellisario, second by Mr. Smith. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 4842, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 6 acres from A1A to A2, Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Sharp, second by Mr. Thompson. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, ordinance calendar number 4843, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 10 acres from A2 to A2 and with a rural overlay, Ward 9, District 11. Mr. Stefanczyk, and second by Bellisario. Vote with your lights, please.
Mr. Stefanczyk? Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 4844, ordinance to amend Chapter 9 of the Parish Code of Ordinances, garbage and trash, to delete Section 9.072.03, lien for non-payment of service charge. Mr. Belisario?
So moved.
Second by Mr. Canulette. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
All right, ordinance calendar number 4845, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 3.02 acres from A2 to A2 with the rural overlay in Ward 3, District 3. Mr. Thompson? The second by Mr. Tanner. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 4846, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.6 acres from A4, A2, H2, and H3 to A4, A2, HC2, HC3, and mobile home overlay. That's a lot. Need a motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Belisario. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 4847, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 2.07 acres from A2 to A2 with a mobile home overlay, Ward 1, District 4. Mr. Falconer?
So moved.
Second by Mr. Thompson. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, two absent.
Ordinance calendar number 4848, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 86.85 acres from A1 to Public Facilities 1, Ward 1, District 3. Mr. Thompson? Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, three absent.
Ordinance calendar number 4849, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 195.1 acres from A1 to HC3 to I1, Public Facilities 2, I2, and SWM1. This was approved on the 3rd of July. Need a motion? Mr. Groby?
Mr. Chair, before we move on this, I'd like to say something to the public. For over a year and 8 months, I have stood in opposition to this waste transfer station. This is not a vote I truly want to give in support, but I cannot let my personal feelings stand in the way of good government, nor should this body. To do so would make us one of the worst type of elected officials you can possibly have, letting your feelings get in the way of a vote. I deeply feel that had this consideration been used from the outset, Macomb would not find itself in the position it finds in there. So unfortunately, I'm going to move to make this motion.
Thank you. Second by Mr. Dean. Is there any discussion? Nothing from the public? Okay. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, three absent.
Thank goodness. Ordinance calendar number 4850, ordinance to permit the crossing of the St. Tammany Trace for the purpose of providing a subsurface gas pipeline, Ward 4, District 7. Mr. Groby. Motion by Mr. Groby, second by Mr. Thompson. Okay, vote with your lights, please.
Mr. Dean, Mr. Falconer. Motion is unanimous, three absent.
Ordinance calendar number 4851, ordinance to correct the road and drainage inventory to include an extension of Shady Lane Road, Ward 4, District 4. Mr. Falconer? Second by Mr. Thompson. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, 3 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 4852, ordinance to extend for 6 months the moratorium on Airport Road within the unincorporated boundaries of Ward 9, District 11.
So moved.
Second by Mr. Artigue. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 4853 AA, ordinance to amend the parish code to provide for operation of motorized vehicles and enforcement of traffic controls within Lake Shore Estates subdivision. Ward 9, District 13. Mr. Artigue, second by Mr. Smith. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 4855, ordinance to impose a 6-month moratorium on the issuance of administrative permits in all areas located south of Interstate 10 and east of Military Road. Mr. Belisario? Second by Mr. Canulette. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 4856, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 80.53 acres from A2 to A3. That's in Ward 1, District 3. Mr. Thompson. Second by Mr. Dean. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 4857, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 116.3 acres from A2 to PUD, Ward 1, District 3. Mr. Thompson. Second by Mr. Dean again. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 4858, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.44 acres from A2 to HC2, Ward 10, District 6. Mr. Tanner. Second by Mr. Sharp. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Very good. Ordinance calendar number 4859, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 3.2 acres, 2.46 acres, and 1.84 acres from A2 to HC2. This is Ward 10, District 6. Mr. Tanner. Second by Mr. Thompson. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 4860, ordinance to amend the 2012 operating budget amendment number 7. Need a motion? Second by Mr. Stefanczyk. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, next item is nominate 2 individuals to appoint to the Board of Commissioners of St. Tammany Rec District number 16. Mr. Smith.
Point of information to our Stefanczyk there. From a postponement, can we do another table?
Sure.
Okay, then we'd like to table it.
Okay, we'll postpone it till the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, postpone till the next meeting. And second by Mr. Belisario. Vote with your lights on the postponement.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, resolution to reappoint Thomas Miller, Jeff Hagues, Brent Cornell, and Ross Lagarde to the St. Tammany Parish Water District number 3. Mr. Falconer?
So moved.
Second by Mr. Thompson. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item number 2, resolution to reappoint Mary Ann Dutton to the Parish Hospital Services District number 2 Permanent Nominating Committee, and this is in District 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Mr.
Move to
Stefanczyk.
appoint.
Second by Mr. Artigue. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Resolution to appoint Barton Livingston to replace Andrew Fila to Parish Rec District number 5, District 6, 9, and 11. Mr. Belisario? Second by Mr. Canulette. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Resolution to reappoint Emil Johansson, Clyde Russell, Darrell Milburn, David Hines to Parish Sewer District Number 4, District 4 appointments. Mr. Falconer?
So moved.
Second by Mr. Thompson. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
All right, resolution to appoint members to the Board of the St. Tammany Parish Development District. Parish Council has 4 appointments pursuant to Act 33-6 of the 2012 Louisiana Legislature. The initial appointments shall be made for staggered terms as follows. 1 member shall be appointed for 3 years, 1 member shall be appointed for 2 years, 2 members shall be appointed for 1 year. As a matter of information, the way we've handled this in the past, we took the top 4 vote getters. Whoever the one that got the most votes would get the longest term, and such down the line until we get the other 2. Now, you're going to vote for 4, and the ballots are being passed out at this time. While we're doing this, let's go ahead and move on to discussions and other matters. And as soon as you get your ballot marked, please pass it down, and we'll get it to the staff so they can tally up the vote. Discussion on and other matters, a motion to refer to the Zoning Commission for recommendation to propose rezoning of 1.66 acres from A1A and HC2 to HC2. It's Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Sharp? Second, okay, and that's, need to vote on the motion?
Mr. Canulet, Mr. Bellisario? Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, next one is a motion to refer to Zoning Commission for recommendation to propose rezoning of parcel of land on Jim Lloyd Road from A1 to A1 in a mobile home overlay, Ward 3, District 3. Mr. Thompson? Second by Mr. Falconer. Vote with your lights on the motion. Very good. All right, let's go ahead and clean up. We've got to go into an executive session, but let's go ahead and go back to the...
Mr. Stefanczyk? Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
What I want to do is move on to off the floor. So we're going to need to vote to open up off the floor again, and it needs to be unanimous. I need a motion. Smith, Mr. Smith, and second by Mr. Bellisario. Vote with your lights. It's got to be unanimous, guys. No, I knew.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
All right, what I'm going to do is we'll clean out what we have here already. I know there's going to be some verbal off the floors that we're going to need to consider, and you know, we'll follow that procedure. Okay, resolution to reappoint Ed Canton to the Parish Hospital Services District Number 2 Permanent Nominating Committee, District 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, and 14.
So moved.
And second by Mr. Artigue. Vote with your lights on that appointment, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Very good. Resolution to reappoint Floyd Trasher to the Parish Fire Protection District Number 11, District 6, 9, 11, and 14.
So moved.
And second by Mr. Artigue. Oh, no, that was Mr. Smith, I'm sorry. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
All right, number 4 is a motion to request the zoning commission to work with the administration to establish minimum standards for agricultural uses in A2 through A8 and a rural overlay.
So moved.
Second by Mr. Smith. Vote with your lights on that, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
All right, number 5 is a motion to refer to the zoning commission for recommendation to propose rezoning of .94 acres from A7 to A4A, and to provide for a parallel hearing of a major amendment to the Garden Walk PUD, which was approved earlier this month by the zoning commission. Is there a motion? And Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Tanner. Vote with your lights on the motion, please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, I have 2 items that I'm going to add for tonight, but I want to check if anybody on this side, if they have anything to add. Over on the east side? Nothing? Okay, I'm going to have 2. I'll read the first one. It's a motion to introduce the zoning change of the Archdiocese of New Orleans property as approved by the Zoning Commission on September 4th, 2012. I need a motion and a second to accept this, to vote on and hear it. So vote with your lights. It was Thompson. Oh, no, it was Groby. Excuse me, Mr. Groby. So vote with your lights. And this is just a vote to open up the floor. It's got to be unanimous. No, this is a new item, verbal. When you do a verbal, you have to call it up again.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
All right, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thompson, second by Mr. Stefanczyk. No, this is a motion, so we have to vote on the motion. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, the other item is SEALA ordinance. Actually, it's not an ordinance, it's a resolution. And a resolution is to authorize the parish president to execute all documents necessary to conclude the acquisition of Southeastern Louisiana Water and Sewer Company, LLC, and now known as Seco Group, LLC. This is the last item that needs to be done.
Move to
clean
open
up.
the agenda.
So we move to open up the agenda. Second, Mr. Thompson, vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Move to approve the resolution.
Second by Mr. Thompson. Well, this is the last piece of outstanding business on our acquiring SEALA. We had some hiccups in the process, but we finally worked our way through it, and it's gotten squared away. So when it authorizes Ms. Brister to go ahead and sign the documents and seal the deal. Vote with your lights, please.
Mr. Stefanczyk. Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, I have no other items. No one's indicated that they would like any other verbals off the floor, so we'll entertain a motion to go into executive session with regards to, well, if I can find it. You got it? All right, it's
Do we have the votes tallied?
Connolly. Okay, Christopher and Naomi Connolly. Date of loss is April 4th, 2012. Claim number 60.3412.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Can we wait till they
Can we
do the
wait until
account?
they tally?
Well, we need to vote to go into executive session.
Okay,
All
so
right,
moved.
so,
Yeah,
Mr.
but
Stefanczyk?
wait a minute. Well, why don't we finish up the economic development stuff first?
Okay, we
They
can do
should be
that.
close, and then go into executive
All right, well,
session.
let's hold up on, I got a motion, we got a second, but let's see if we got the results. Right.
Well, they were badly damaged.
Oh, the storm.
Yeah.
I thought you said something rained into it. We'll meet with Lewis. I'll call. Might be able to get it out. Yeah.
I don't even know, I've never heard of it.
That's 'cause you're not-
Call me when you're ready to go to lunch. Couple of weeks, whatever. Last week of September, whatever.
We're back in session. Vote with your lights on coming in. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move we take the recommendation of our legal counsel.
Second.
All right. Vote with your lights. Got it clear.
I think you better clear that.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
All right, vote with your lights.
You're voting on the to accept the recommendation.
That's what we voted on.
Yes.
There's,
Mr. Bellisario? Yes. Motion is unanimous, one absent.
all right,
I move to
Motion.
adjourn.
there we go.